Hey guys, it's Alec Torelli. Welcome back to the hand of the day. What is up? Today's question comes from Mikhail, who asks, how did you learn to deal with the ups and downs of poker? How do you handle it when you lose half your stack in a tourney? And what is the best mindset to overcome the fear and doubt of not making it? Feeling of inadequacy, basically. Is there a special thought or realization that helped you in overcoming this illusionary feeling of losing in poker, or the fear to lose flips and get busted? So the first thing I'm going to address is how to deal with the ups and downs. I wrote a 2-part blog on this that is really extensive, really well thought out, in response to someone that had a very similar question. It's called How to Get Over Massive Losses. Perhaps I'll address this more in another video, but for now, check it out, and I believe this is going to really help you. Let me know your thoughts on that. And I'm going to leave it at that so I could focus this entire video on the fear section, because that's something extremely, extremely important. And if you can't get in touch with that, then you are not going to make it. Because fear is what separates, let's say you have two things you want to do, right? There are two things that you're thinking of doing. One is what you want to do, and one is what you think you should do. And you've all experiencing this in life, right? Like you have your parents are saying, oh, you should do this. You know, they want you to study a certain thing in school, and you actually want to study this, right? What's separating these two roads for you, what's separating something you want to do and something you think you should do, is ultimately at the bottom of it, the fundamental thing that is disconnecting you from your passion is fear. Okay? So generally the question you need to ask yourself is, what do I fear the most? And that's what you most need to do, right? You've heard that saying, and that's so true. So fear is so important to have a handle on, and today we're going to talk about it. So you say, is there a special thought or realization that helped you in overcoming this illusionary feeling of losing in poker? Let me stop you, buddy, because the feeling isn't illusionary, all right? Get in touch with that now. Losing is very, very real, and it happens to me to this day, okay? I go in periods, phases, where I simply cannot win. And and that's because I cannot defy luck, okay? I can only determine how I react to it. I can't change the cards that I'm dealt, okay? But I can change how I play the hand. So own that and own it now. This feeling is not illusionary. You will lose, okay? Embrace it. And if you can't handle those setbacks, you ain't going to succeed. So not in poker and not anywhere. So use it as fuel to make you stronger. Okay, now this doesn't just apply to poker. Losing doesn't mean you can't win at playing cards, all right? If you are trying to succeed at something else and there's fear there that's underneath your structure and your surface, right? It's preventing you from living your fullest, giving yourself fully to that activity, you will not succeed. If you can't handle the fear that comes with that and the emotional setbacks that cause more fear, that perpetuate the same inaction, that's what fear does. It causes inaction. You will not succeed. It doesn't matter if it's in poker, okay? So now you're wondering, how do I combat this fear, right? How do I tackle the beast? Is what you're wondering. Got it. So the best way to overcome the fear is to face it, right? I mean, let's go a step further. Is there another way? All right. Is there another way besides facing it? Can you run from it? Is that going to overcome your fear? No, you're going to take inaction. You're actually not going to take any action. You are going to be left with inaction, right? I want to write a book, but don't think it's going to be good. I don't think anyone's going to buy it, so why would I spend my time? That is a fear-based ideology that is preventing you from doing something. I don't want to go travel there because I heard it's dangerous. What if I this? What if I that? I don't know. What if I get food poisoning? Right? That is a fear-based ideology that's preventing action. Okay? So running from fear doesn't do anything. It keeps you stuck in the same place. It actually eats away at you, right? So facing fear is the only way to overcome it. If you think of another way, let me know. I can't think of one. So running is cowardly and counterproductive. The fear manifests and growing in you, and it rots, preventing you from taking action, all right? It's like jumping in a cold pool. If you were going to jump in a cold pool, you jump now, boom, it's over. You conquered the fear. You faced the fear. You encountered it. It wasn't as bad as you thought, right? No matter how cold the water is, you're like, I did it. It was cool. It wasn't that bad. You never regret the things you do, only the things you don't do. Okay? So jump in the damn pool. And if you notice the times you don't jump in the pool, it is harder to jump the longer you wait. And if you are like dipping your way in, like, barely putting your toes in, then your mind develops this psychological like hurdle, and jumping into the pool completely with your whole body now becomes a difficult task, because now you have to go one step at a time, and then you get up to your waist, and if you're a guy, it gets up your waist, you're like, damn, it's fucking cold, right? And it becomes a big deal. Whereas if you just jump, man, it's over. And there are less hurdles than you think when you just plunge in, okay? And it's never as bad as you thought. So now let's talk about your fear specifically, right? If your fear is practical, there's two types of fear you might be experiencing. If your fear is practical, meaning I am scared to take a certain action because I'm going to lose money, right? That's one thing. Like, I'm scared to bet because I'm going to lose money. So to combat that fear, right, you must go within. You must change the perspective to which you are approaching the situation, because that is something's wrong up here, all right? So ask yourself, what is the correct decision to make here? And let that be your guide, right? You are approaching the situation from the result that could be negative. That negative ping that comes back when you lose is affecting your ability to make good decisions, right? So you are approaching the situation from a results perspective, which is causing you to be feared and inactive when you are looking at the results. So you need to change your perspective. Your perspective needs to be, what is the best decision? And that needs to be the way that you work backwards to get yourself to make the right decision. Okay? Now, I say this in the vast majority of the videos. I tell this to pretty much every student I have, and I always say the same advice. But I'm going to say it again today. If you are feeling fear, if you're not able to make those decisions, right, chances are you're playing too high. Okay, you're just playing too big. Now, ask yourself, if you divided the stakes you were playing by a third, would you feel that same fear? The answer is probably not. Okay, so that's another easy way to combat this specific fear you're feeling. Okay? Now, if your fear, I talked about two different kinds. If your fear is psychological, which you could be experiencing, and much more of you are going to experience this, because you could experience this in a myriad of different pursuits, right? That is the fear of failure. Ask, what will others think? What about my image? What is going to happen if I tell someone I am writing a book? They're going, you're not a writer. Who are you? You're a pizza maker, right? You're not a writer, right? That is not your identity. Okay, you haven't succeeded yet at that. There's a great quote that says that the one thing that all successful business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, musicians, artists, painters all have in common is that they started when they were none of these, right? So what is a label? Labels are what they give you when you've become successful. But how do you become successful? You start as nothing, right? So it's a catch-22. It doesn't even make sense. Okay, it's just completely stupid. So, but you still have that fear because people judge you, people talk about you. I totally understand. I mean, I grew up, telling people I was playing poker when I was 18, and that's obviously not something accepted. I've dealt with this my whole life. But that fear is a ego problem, okay? It is. I don't mean that ego means you're proud and arrogant. I mean, it's something that is happening in the psyche, okay? So that isn't really 100% fear, right? That is almost more on the border of insecurity, okay? That falls into more of an insecurity category. You're unsure of your competency in poker, which is okay. That's normal. And poker reminds us of this all the time, because poker humbles us, because we lose. Even the best players in the world lose, all right? The best players make mistakes. So you are unsure of your competency. If you were the best in the world, if you were, pick an example of the best something in the world, Michael Jordan, right? You would be more sure of your ability to execute what it is you're doing, right? you could also be struggling with the fear of simply making mistakes, right? So what this is the fear of others judging you in a certain situation, the fear of what happens if I write that book and it doesn't become a bestseller. I made a mistake. I didn't succeed, right? I wasn't perfect. Okay? Because that is the benchmark to which you are setting your standards is perfection. And anything under perfection is a mistake. And these mistakes are causing fear and insecurity, right? You are not perfect. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, right? I go all in and the guy has it and I screwed up and I get caught bluffing, man. That happens to me. It happens to me. I'm a successful poker player. It happens. It happens all the time, right? Not me. Well, it happens, okay? So here's a quote from Michael Jordan, all right? I want you to listen to this one. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeeded. So you, my man, are fucking human. And so is Michael Jordan. You will make mistakes, all right? Accept that now. Stop trying to be perfect. Because your desire for perfectionism, this bar that you're setting super high, this standard which you have set up to be demanding of yourself, something that you cannot deliver, anything less than perfect, which is making a mistake, you cannot deliver, is causing you to be afraid, right? It triggers some sort of, it could be even a survival mechanism, right? You have this thing you need to do to succeed, and if you don't, then you're inadequate, right? It triggers this mechanism inside of you, and, what if I'm wrong? What are the others going to think, right? And that's causing all this fear and this pain and this inaction, right? So you need to realize deeply that nothing will happen. Who cares, man, right? You'll play the next hand, right? You're going to try and edit your book and write a better one, or you're going to publish it and do it for yourself, right? So here is your exercise for this week. If this is something you're struggling with, this is something you're going to need to do, and I think it's really going to help. I've done it before, things I've been afraid of doing, taking that jump, and this stuff helps. So write down your worst case scenario, okay? For all the things that you're afraid of. What will happen if I go all in and lose? What will happen if I make a terrible mistake? What will happen if the others judge me? All right? Write down the worst case scenario. How will you react to that? How will that feel? Right? What will happen if I write a book, if I try and write that book I've always wanted to write, and the others say, well, Mikhail doesn't know how to write a book. Who the hell is Mikhail? Mikhail makes pizza. I don't know what Mikhail does, but whatever. Right? Mikhail's not a writer. Who's Mikhail to write a book? What will happen if I put myself in that spot? Write it down. Face it. Own it. Mikhail, I just responded. It's on you. Peace.